Hey guys, it's Book of Catherine. So I know I talked about Electoral College a little bit in another video, but I really wanted to do it again. So I know that there's been just a little bit of talk about the Electoral College here and there about people talking about, oh, it should be the popular vote. Oh, the popular vote is more modern, blah, 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 and all those kinds of things. I gotta say, no. Like, no. As someone who's been to 48 states, no. No. No, like in my personal opinion, the Electoral College is it. And that's not because of who's won in any way, shape, or form. I mean, let's take number one, let's just put aside President Trump, okay? Because President Trump was clear from the very beginning. He's like, I'm a winner, I know how to win. And he told his people, he was very clear with his people. He's like, the way you win the presidency is Electoral College. And he laid out the map. It was clear for the very beginning, I'm going to go for the Electoral College. Like he said that. He said, because that's how it's set up, is for the Electoral College to win. Therefore, I will design my campaign around the Electoral College. And all of the pundits said it. They were like, okay, he's going for the Electoral College. Like he designed his entire campaign. So when people are like complaining like that's how he won, well, he designed the campaign for it because that's how it's designed to win. Like if it was designed to win a different way, he would have gone a different way. Like, so that's not it at all. So like, that's not like, just let's put that aside for a second. Like he didn't win on default. It's very clear from the very beginning, that's how he designed his run. And every presidential candidate should do so. Do you know what I'm saying? So, because that's the way it's built. Now, do you think it could have been the popular vote from the very beginning? Yeah, the founders could have done that. Like, what's different? What's different from the beginning? Like, the beginning, there was like, it could have been popular vote from the beginning. What's different? It was still a bunch of different states. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been popular vote. It could have been the same thing. It could have been that way. But they did it differently. And now that I've done like 48 states, I see the reason why. In fact, I kind of figured it out within like 6 states. I was like, oh, I get it. And everyone who like rants and raves about cultural diversity or whatever, like should understand the concept of an electoral college. The people who stomp around the most about the popular vote are the people in California. You know why they stomp around the popular vote in California the most? Because they know they have the most people in California. They have a crap ton of people in California. And California, like, all votes the same way. Do you know why California all votes the same way? Because the state media there is like, it's like blackout. Like, there is no other state in the entire union that has as fast as access. It is inundated. You cannot escape the so-called matrix there. I mean, the matrix is everywhere. It's everywhere. You cannot escape the media there. It's everywhere. It's in your ear. It's in your gas station. It's in your gas pump. It's like being in Vegas. It's screaming at you everywhere. And so they could tell you, like, they just give you the leftist view 20 million times a day. And that's why I said, like, when we left the state of California, we were shocked. We were absolutely shocked that anyone thought any differently than California. For example, when the Gulf happened and the spill happened, California covered it for like, what, 2 days, 3 days? And then we left and every other state was covering it. We watched it. We watched it be covered over and over and over again. And California, like, nothing. Nothing. You would not know. They went back to covering bears breaking into people's backyards. Like, their entire media is just entertainment. Be entertained by a monkey and the bears. Oh, look, a reindeer got over the thing. That's their news. Now their news is just made up stories. Like, now they just put models on the thing making funny faces, but they don't show you. They say, oh, this lady went over a cliff, but they don't actually show you the climb scene. They don't. And then it's just an excuse to show a bunch of Democratic things. And you're like, what the heck? Like, where is the actual crime scene? They don't bother with anything. And all the names are the same. It's so obvious that they're just rewriting the same names over and over. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And they knew something like that can happen. They knew the power of propaganda. They knew the power of that. And they knew that every state is different. And they were very aware of that. They'd seen it. I mean, that's why they broke away from the King of England. Because things like that happen. And in order to prevent things like that, in order to prevent one state from being more powerful than that, one city from having the entire voice, because they just knew about all of this, you guys. But more than that, I mean, more than that, when you go to each state, they have their own character, and each character should have its own vote. Like, do you really think Vermont shouldn't have a vote? If we went with the popular vote, Vermont would have no voice. I mean, all the states in New England wouldn't have a voice. I mean, if you took out the Electoral College, you would basically make Oregon, Washington, and like the entire Oregon, Washington, California, those 3 states would be more powerful than the entire East Coast combined. You think that's fair? Yeah. They knew what they were doing. They were being very careful. They know how the rich operate. They designed the entire system to make sure that there was a balance of power, to make sure there were equal voices. And each state is so different. They wanted each diverse voice to have an equal say in the presidency. They didn't want homogeny. Every state is so different, and I would never want one state's voice to be drowned out, ever. I like the Electoral College. I fell in love with it the moment I traveled. The moment I traveled and saw each state, I fell in love with the character of each state. I love that when I go to New England and I cross from Maine to New Hampshire to Vermont, I love that they're so different. I remember going home and telling everybody. That was like my big story. I was like, I am telling you right now, you know that little corner up in the U.S. where you like can't even tell? Like Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont? Oh my gosh, they're so different. Like they're so different. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe how different they are. Like just New Hampshire to Vermont, to New Hampshire to Vermont. You cross over the river and they're just like totally different. Like they're nothing like it. Like they're nothing like each other. You take away the Electoral College and you destroy that. And cultural diversity. Like the fabric of the people. Our differences. I love it. You know, be smart and run on it if you've got like, dude, really? I did. That's my personal opinion. I think the founders knew what they were doing. It's not as if propaganda didn't exist back then. It's not as if they weren't rich and powerful back then. It's not as if they hadn't seen corruption yet. I saw this one amazing speaker speak. He came and he spoke in, it was the guy who did Economic Hitman. And he went and he spoke up in, I believe it was like Brattleboro, Vermont. And he said that whole valley is where the revolution began. And he said the farmers were not the poorest in the world. They didn't have to revolt. They didn't have to. They weren't on their hands and knees needing to. That they saw they had a chance. They just knew it was right. To give the individual more power than had ever been given in the history of man. The Electoral College was designed for the same thing, to give each state more power. Don't take that away. The popular vote just gives California all the power. you go stay in California for a while before you go tooting that horn. And why don't you study voter fraud before you go tooting that horn? Before you hate on the Electoral College, why don't you visit the states that you're thinking about silencing? And don't ever talk about cultural diversity again. Because that's exactly what this is all about. Peace out. I am learning how to press stop with the back of my hand.